In Game 3 of the Memphis Grizzlies Golden State Warriors series, Ja Morant appeared to suffer a knee injury. And there's some conversation about whether or not that was due to an intentional, dirty play by Jordan Poole, where it appeared that he was attempting to strip the ball, but he actually ended up pulling on Ja Morant's knee. Ja Morant ended up limping out of the arena, and reports have it that he is unlikely to be available to play in Game 4 tonight. Some people are questioning whether or not this was done intentionally to injure Ja Morant to take him out of the series, especially because after the game, Ja Morant tweeted out, "Broke the code," and shared a clip of the play in question. Code is a reference to a comment made by Steve Kerr after the game where Gary Payton II was injured. Steve Kerr was referring to Dillon Brooks and the very nasty play he made that resulted in Gary Payton II fracturing his elbow and suffering ligament damage in his arm. If we're being brutally honest, we would acknowledge that there have always been dirty players in the NBA. While basketball is advertised as a non-contact sport, there is a lot of contact in basketball. Basketball is by no means football, but basketball does allow controlled contact between players. And that does allow for more physical players to get creative when playing defense. This is a long-standing tradition, and it's a part of basketball that I hate the most. There's even a name for these players. They're called dirty workers. And I'm sure you've heard sports analysts say things like, you'd love to have this guy on your team, but you absolutely hate playing against him. Bottom line is, dirty workers do dirty things to take players out the game. It could be something as innocuous as instigating a player to react in a way that gets them ejected. It could be something more serious, like tripping a player, getting underneath a player that's in the air, hitting a player in the face and making it look like a normal basketball move, kicking a player in the family jewels, or worst case scenario, actually trying to injure another player. There's not a lot of context for knowing whether or not Jordan Poole is the type of player that would try to injure someone. I think it's fair to say that we should give him the benefit of the doubt because he has never done anything like this before. At the same time, when I watch his post-game interview, his body language didn't really demonstrate that he was too concerned about the fact that he injured Ja Morant. And there's a question as to whether or not a previous play where Ja Morant kind of bumped knees with Klay Thompson is the real culprit for why he was struggling to put his full weight on his knee and limping. Some of us are also looking at the events leading up to Ja's injury and wondering whether or not this is some type of get back for what happened to Gary Payton II. Just like some of us had the feeling that Dillon Brooks' dirty play on Gary Payton II was some type of get back for what happened to Brandon Clark in Game 1. And I know what I'm about to say will be a bit controversial, but Steve Kerr has always had a dirty worker on his team. Think back to Zaza Pachulia and the incident with Kawhi Leonard and how that literally led to a rule change about stepping under jump shooters. Look at some of the things Draymond Green has done in his career, especially in those series against the Cavaliers, and you can't tell me that the Golden State Warriors are completely innocent. So in spite of the fact that I find it hard in this particular instance to accuse Jordan Poole of doing something dirty, put it past the Golden State Warriors to do something like that because they've had players that have done it in the past and you just can't 100% rule it out. In my personal opinion, there is no place in the game for this type of play, and it's the part of basketball that, like I said, that I absolutely hate. I do not like seeing players get injured regardless of whether I'm rooting for the other team, especially a player like Ja Morant, who is playing such great basketball with passion and fearlessness. Injuring a player is about so much more than just giving yourself an edge in a playoff series. You're possibly hindering that person's career beyond that season. You're threatening a man's livelihood and his ability to provide for his family at a certain level. And to me, it makes you look like a punk if you feel like you have to take out the other team's best players in order to win. It's weak and it's something I will never respect. I know teams will always employ dirty workers to get physical, take fouls, and make it harder for the other team. But there's a line that you just shouldn't cross. And if Jordan Poole tried to injure Ja Morant intentionally, and only he knows whether or not he was doing it intentionally, that's not only foul, but there's some really bad karma attached to doing that to another player because it could easily be you. I pray that Ja Morant is okay, and I hope that this is the last of these types of plays that we see during this series. I just want to see these two teams play basketball, and it's a heck of a lot more fun for the fans if the best players are actually playing in the series. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Do you think Jordan Poole intentionally tried to injure Ja Morant? Do you think that the Warriors' history of doing dirty things to star players lends any credence to the idea that this was done intentionally? And do you think it's possible for the Memphis Grizzlies to win against the Golden State Warriors without Ja Morant? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, comment whether you agree with me or not, and don't forget to share if you care. And I'm out.